seems that the UEFA Champions League final may be a game in which an experiment may be held for security measures taking place on June 3rd in Cardiff. Expected to be hundreds of thousands of fans travelling to them. But South Wales police are conducting a face recognition trial that could scan every one of the 170,000 visitors expected to show up in the city for the match, whether or not they're heading to the stadium or not. So, as you're well aware, Borussia Dortmund incidents where the bus was attacked, there was speculated there was other bombs found around, there was it was attested to an ISIS assault that was expected to try and take place. Bartra was taken to the hospital, broke his arm. So it's very troubling times, as we know, when it comes to football. It's been a target of terrorism in the past. We all remember the targets, the attack in France. We remember that there's been plenty of other instances where football has been a target for evil and terrorism because it's a very unifying experience. It in a way, encompasses a lot of the things that makes this world a very good place. Sport brings everyone together to enjoy the game of football. So I think this is an interesting one. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it that it's not going to be inconvenient. People will be like, I just want to get into the game. But I always take a step back in these instances. The same way that when I'm in an airport and it's taken forever to go through the airport security, you'll never hear me complain. Now, that being said, I'm not usually a target for thorough searching, so I'm going to put that out there. So maybe if I was more often than not, then I'd have a different point of view. But I always think to myself, it's for the safety of everyone involved, and you can't have too much security when it comes to this. But what do you think? Face recognition security.
If you live or go to the UK, you're already in the most surveyed area in the world.
Yeah.
So the UK's got video cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, I understand there's a very thin line between safety and invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
And it's a very hard line to get to. We all want to be safer. There's a lot of things passed in the name of safety that are unnecessary, in my opinion, that are a violation of, people are willing to sacrifice rights very quickly. If you look at it, if the technology is workable, then okay, great. But at a recent test at a carnival, police arrested 454 people with this technology. It didn't identify a single person of interest. So it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of inconvenience. Look, I was born in Belfast in the 70s. Bombs were a regular occurrence for me. I lived with the threat of anything being blown up at any minute. And we saw this on a regular basis. There's an assumed risk at all large events today, unfortunately. And I don't know where the line is between a free society and having civil liberties, between that and sacrificing that and for safety. I don't know, and I sympathize with both sides on this argument.
Yeah, it is a very thin line. This kind of crosses over to other subjects I talk about, or whether it's on the political channel or on Facebook, where I talk about the measures that are taken to, in a way, enhance the safety of the people. But as we know, specifically in the United States, it's more people are surveilled in their own country than they are worldwide. That's why you get guys like Edward Snowden, who comes out and blows up the whole thing and showcases that the fact is that they're invading privacy. After watching the movie Snowden, I had a piece of sellotape over my webcam right here. I was so paranoid. So there is instances where it starts to worry you. There's another example here at the bottom of the article that is courtesy of Reuters, where it says that there was already evidence of police forces both in the UK and abroad preserving face recognition data for innocent people. That is unfortunately going to be common practice. Is police officials and other surveillance units are going to try to maintain this data so that they can try and find out of any illegal activity going on. And then when you partner that up to the safety of the individuals, where what you'll imagine, and I hate saying this aloud, but what you imagine is that, of course, terrorist organizations, evil people are going to look to an event like a Champions League final and think, perfect situation. That's why the Parc des Princes in Paris was a target for the game between France and Germany, I believe, a friendly game. Yeah. And thank God the explosion didn't injure people inside the stadium. It happened outside of it and was able to be dealt with before it really hurt a lot of people. So it's such a thin line, because you think to yourself, you want the safety of these individuals to be upheld. You want everyone who's going to this game to feel safe and secure, because what these terrorists want is they want people to second guess going to the
Absolutely.
game. That's what I always say when I report here. And yeah, it's easy for me to report behind a desk, blah, blah, blah. But I've been to many football games in the past. I've been in many situations that I think there can be an idea that this could be a threat. This could be a position where people will look to go and attack. But that is when they win, is when you start to second guess your everyday rituals, when you start to maybe think, should I go to this game? Should I enjoy myself? Because that's all they're out there to do, is to hinder your own ideology, to really upset your happiness, to try and push forward their hate-filled rhetoric. And that's why I think that if you're going to use face recognition technology at a game, then I expect that to be partnered with surveillance that's inside the stadium. And more often than not, what really upsets me, Phil, is when I see a week after the Dortmund instance, Lyon and Besiktas fans rioting to each other, right? And I think to myself, what the hell is going on in your mind when you're a fan there, when you're causing riots? And you know what that does? That forces all police attention to that. And that just leaves everyone else who's there just to see the game susceptible to any other evil individual that wants to cause harm there, especially when you're Lyon and you're in a country that is consistently being targeted and you're a fan of that team and you're thinking, you know what, I'm going to go and cause a riot. I'm going to go and start a fight with Besiktas. And I thought it was mainly the Turkish fans, because they are notable for causing violence. But then the next week, Lyon fans were at it again in their own league. So that's what really pisses me off, because I'm thinking these officers and these officials that are there to preserve security, they already have a tough task. They're trying to monitor hundreds of thousands of people. And then when there's instances going on with fan violence, it just makes their job even harder.
I think the hooliganism thing has changed dramatically from going back to when Margaret Thatcher was trying to introduce ID schemes to identify hooligans. You do get isolated incidents, of course. It does still happen to a degree, but nothing like what we used to see.
Yeah, what we used to see.
And that's a combination of the population changing, evolution, people identify with sport in different ways. It's not, it used to be back in the 70s and the 80s, you know, this was people's lives. There wasn't all the distractions that we have today. Young people coming up today don't tend to support teams this way. So if it was just to combat hooliganism, I would be totally against it. I would say, no, this is wrong. But I understand safety is a very, very difficult, it's essentially a peace of mind, right? And I understand, we always see this whenever an incident happens, he's known to police. And I think the police have to say that. Well, what if they say, oh, we didn't know who he was? Well, why? Why don't you know who he was? Exactly. So I think this is a really difficult thing to get right in a free society like Europe. So the bottom line is you're always going to assume risk going to a big event, and it can happen at any moment. And would this face recognition and technology have stopped the Borussia Dortmund attack? No. Would it have stopped the incident in Paris? Most likely not, because these are happening outside the stadiums. And how do you isolate a single face in amongst hundreds of thousands of people? It's so difficult. And so it's a really hard thing to get right.
Well, it's an important conversation to be had. And again, there might be a point to the idea that, they might not think that this is going to be a very successful trial, and that they're going to suddenly pick apart people who are out to cause harm. But will it allow people who are going to the game to have a little bit more of a peace of mind? That's the thing, is like, will it preserve their safety? Already a priority, I imagine, is the utmost priority when it comes to this, because whenever you go to do something that you're a little fearful, it's not when you feel like there's someone out there looking to uphold your protection, and it gives you that peace of mind that you think, okay, the risk of something happening is still a risk, but it's a lower risk in comparison to what it might be. So who knows? It might work, it might not. It's all a trial and error, I guess, so we're going to see what happens. We only hope that they don't use this footage for any other alternative means that the police force have done and have proven to have done in the past. So we'll see what happens in the Champions League final as it takes place. Make sure to check out Phil at Beyond the Pitch, a great podcast. Your podcast goes up a number of times a week.
You can, if you go to our website, you'll find it, beyondthepitch.net, or subscribe. We do a show twice a week for NBC. You can find it on NBC Podcasts, on iTunes, Audio Boom, all that stuff. So just follow us on Twitter at Beyond the Pitch, and you'll see all the links.
Fantastic. All right, well, and make sure to check out everything else on social media. I'll mention it on the last clip, so I mentioned it on the first clip. You'll find me at Francis M. Maxwell, but there won't be a blue tick there because Twitter's...
I'll draw one for you.
So, yeah, I did. I went into Instagram and drew a nice blue tick on it, and that was good enough, apparently. See you soon.
See ya.